First of all, I want you to know that this webinar will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. All registrants will be emailed the information about this recording. And on YouTube, our channel is called Sherpa Software, all one word. And not only will you find this webinar, but also lots of other interesting videos and other product-related topics. You will also be able to answer questions, or actually ask questions, which I will answer during this webinar. That Q&A session is going to be at the end of the webinar. To enter those questions, just go to the questions portion of the webinar panel. And if you have questions that you remember after the webinar, just don't hesitate to contact us directly. We'll be able to get you some information. Okay, now that we have those basics taken care of, let's take a look at our agenda today. First of all, this webinar is going to take about an hour, probably just under an hour. The majority of the time will be taken by the review of the new features of Discovery Attender, followed by a live demonstration of those features, as well as a few tips and tricks if you're using those features. After going over those features, we'll take a quick look at Report Attender, including some use cases and a show and tell. Then, as promised, we're going to do the Q&A. To start us off, I'd like to give you a quick background about Discovery Attender. Sherpa Software has been around since about 1999, mainly focusing on email and content management. Discovery Attender was developed because we had a number of customers who were looking for just a simple tool that did all the searching without the management features of our Mail Attender tool. Discovery Attender itself was released in 2004 and has been a success ever since. We have thousands of customers worldwide. Now, the current version is 3.71. What we're going to be talking about today is 3.8, which is a new version, which will be released this month. Okay. One thing to note, as I mentioned before, we always welcome feedback and are happy to hear about any features you'd like to see in the product. Even if we can't keep them in the product for the next release, we will keep them in mind, either for a future release or maybe even a new product. After all, 90% of the features you're going to see today are the result of customer feedback. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's new in Discovery Attender. These new features revolve around several areas. The first change you're going to notice is that we rebranded the product and refreshed the interface. Some other new looks include a preview pane, a welcome screen, and also another big addition is the searching of new data stores, including Office 365. And we'll talk more about that when we get into the discussion about the live portion of this demo. Okay, as I noted before, you can search EML files now as email, which means you can use specific send to receive date and address data as well as keywords. In addition to those expanded data stores, the 3.8 version is chock full of new features, including the much requested ability to pause searches. Yes, I can hear you cheering from here. Some other helpful functionality includes automatically assigning custodians, handling enveloped journal email, and lastly, adding a set of new filters on properties that we store in the database. You're now going to be able to filter on those. In addition to Discovery Attender's new features, we also have put new features into the pre-search tool. For those of you who are not familiar with the pre-search tool, it's a utility that is shipped with Discovery Attender. It is actually a completely separate tool, but you access it via the Discovery Attender interface. And that has been upgraded, again, also has a new look. And the most popular feature we think is going to be in there is a new webmail to TST export. Webmail are things like Gmail, maybe Yahoo, some of the, whatever account, cloud-based email accounts you can access via the IMAP protocol. You will be able to do so as long as you have the proper credentials, and then export that to TST file. And of course, those TSTs can be searched with Discovery Attender. We also have included the Office 365 support in the pre-search tool. You can now search it directly via Discovery Attender, or you can export Office 365 mailboxes to PST. Okay. So there's a few other new features in Discovery Attender in addition to all of those. One of the most requested has been a 64-bit version. The 64-bit version will now allow you to run against Office 64-bit 2010, and of course any future enhancements of Office that Microsoft sees fit to release. So the 64-bit version or the 32-bit version honestly can run on a 64-bit machine. It's enhanced a little bit for the 64-bit version. Just keep in mind that MAPI is still a 32-bit application, and since we're using MAPI to connect to PSTs, you're not going to see necessarily that much of a speed up on 64-bit machines for searching. However, as I said before, you will see some improvement with other functionality. So we're going to talk about some of these other miscellaneous items when we do our full demo. In fact, why don't we go ahead and take a look at the product now. Okay, so as you notice, we are starting off with a welcome screen. Now, some people are going to be a bit annoyed by having a welcome screen. A lot of people are used to going right to the Open Project page. If you do, if that's what you like, it's really easy. Just select this Do Not Show on Startup button, and you go directly to the Open Product page. Okay. Another thing here, this Main Console button opens the Main Console directly without opening a project. Generally speaking, you're not going to want to do that. The only reason you do this really is if you're going to be adjusting settings or license key, something like that, without the need to open a project. Most people are going to come in here traditionally, as they always would, open an existing project, and you're going to see the functionality is more or less the same. Now, before I go further, let me just give you a few notes about the upgrade itself. First of all existing projects will be updated. Okay, no data will change. We do add a few fields to the database. We do make it compatible with the new 3.8 versions, but all your existing projects, the results, the searches, etc., created in any version from 2.0 above will be able to be opened. You can research those items. You can manage your results. You can export your results, and you can create reports on all the old projects using 3.8. No data, as I said before, will be changed except to add fields to accommodate this upgrade. Okay, in addition to that, all the settings are going to be maintained. So your license key and all the settings that you have for your export actions, etc., those will also be maintained. And the only caveat to this, if you're using older projects, is that your new features will only be accessible from searches created in the new version. So some of these new features you're not going to be able to use in the older versions of the project, and I'll show you which ones those are. Okay, so let's get started and talk a little bit about the different things. I'm going to go ahead and open a project I have created previously, and you're going to notice that the banners have changed, the buttons have changed a little bit, but generally speaking, the toolbars, the menus, they're basically where they were. There's a few enhancements to them. I'll try and go over them as we go through. Now, let's start just really quickly with the settings. I want to show you some things that you're going to want to take a look at in the settings, starting with this new option for disk space. This basically keeps track of low disk space. If you're on a machine which is resource constrained, or if you're running a huge set of searches that you're caching all the data, you don't know how much space it's going to take, and you probably want to enable this option. Okay, so it gives you an option to say, okay, when do you want to be alerted, and what do you want to do when you're alerted to the low disk space? Okay. So these are your options that you have in here. And again, if you are running on a constrained machine or with few resources in terms of hard drive space, you probably want to use this option. The second thing I want to point out to you are these PDF options. Now, PDF options were available in 3.71. However, it was somewhat limited in the format of the PSPs that we could try to parse the passwords. This new version actually is doing passwords for all versions of PDFs, and basically what it does is it eliminates the exception where you're getting an encrypted or password-protected error on blank passwords. PDFs, in case you haven't encountered this error, PDFs often have they're encrypted, they actually don't have a password. And this functionality, when you enable it, and by the way, it is disabled by default, so you have to proactively enable it. You can also, in addition to attending to the blank passwords, you can also put in your own passwords and try and actually list them. Again, we don't provide the list. This is something you're going to be putting in here. This is just my test data. So once again, if you do have a lot of PDFs that you're getting those encrypted and password protected errors on, come in here, enable this. That should help you with the your preview search. Okay. Under organization, I'd like you to notice that we've added new marks. Okay. Again, you can use these for helping you filter items or identify them within different views. We also have these preview options. Now, the preview is enabled by default. You're going to see this in the results view. It's a preview window that's based on our text viewer, and you're going to be able to see the different functionality with that in just a moment when we get to the preview pane. Okay. Some of the other items is 365 mailbox. This is where you enter your impersonation credential. Now, impersonation in Office 365 is similar to administrator rights. And for those of you that don't know, Office 365 is Microsoft's cloud-based solution for Exchange. So a lot of small companies have migrated up to Office 365, taking their Exchange servers, putting them in 365. We access them directly, and the impersonated credentials are one of the ways they manage mailboxes. Okay, so this is the account name and password. So for any settings I'm going to have in my wizard, this is what it's going to draw against. Okay? All right, with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at some other options that we have. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to go through the setup of a search, and I'll show you the different options that have been added to a new search. So we're just going to start a search from scratch, and this search is going to be, our preview search. Okay, we'll go forward. We're going to select for this preview other email stores. This is where Office 365 and also the EML is. We're also going to select the file or network shares. There's some nice features I think you'll like in that as well. The rest of the items really have more or less stayed the same. Okay. When we're looking at our other email stores, we're going to select MSG and also EML as well as Office 365. We come to Office 365, and you see this is different than a standard Exchange setup. What we do here is basically add the mailbox we want to search. Okay, so this is one of our test accounts here at Sherpa Software. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to connect with the default settings. This means the settings that I had in the Tools Settings 365 section, that is what I'm connecting with, and that account needs to have permissions to the test user. So what I need to do always when you enter a mailbox in here is use the test button to verify that you can get into the mailbox. I can. I'm successfully connected. Okay. Now there are other ways of connecting to the mailbox. I won't bore you with all the details here, but you can connect directly to a mailbox if you know the password, or you can connect through an alternate administrative or impersonated account. It's really what you'd like to do here. The default settings is what we think most people are going to use. Therefore, we are using them. Click OK. You've added the account here. Okay. You can also import a list of 365 mailboxes. Now, the next screen I want to show you is the screen to enter email file paths. Now, what this means is if you're searching for individual MSG or EML files, they're now together in one screen. The only thing you need to do here is put in a path that contains either EML or MSG files. Okay, so you can come in here. Again, my files are slightly different location than some people's, but I have this is my EML file source, and I can come in and also select my MSG file source as well. Okay. Now, depending on what you selected in the original select areas to search, if I selected only MSGs, then it's only going to search for MSGs, not EML, and vice versa. But selecting them both will use these folder paths that I have put in here to select them both. I can also click split those up to make the search a little bit more efficient. Okay. Now going forward, we now have our file paths. Now let's just say these particular folders weren't dedicated to email. They were dedicated to all kinds of files. You can now use the email paths import to bring those over. So you don't have to type them over again. Okay. In addition to that, we also have a new feature, and I'm just going to take this out so I can show you my new feature. This one I think people are going to like a lot. So we've always had the split function, and basically the split function here, you just click split, and voila, things are split. The benefit, the new thing we've done with split is if you can't access a set of subfolders, they're now in red, and subfolders say NA. Okay, this tells you can't get into the subfolders. You can remove them. So let me show you another feature that I think you're really going to like. For those of you who are searching file shares, so once again, I'm just going to use my C drive as an example. For those of you who search file shares, you know that you're going to have to split, and sometimes you have to do it 2 or 3 times, and sometimes you want to do it even more than that. We've introduced this auto split feature. It says how many levels do you want to go down for your search. Okay? It doesn't mean this means we're going to search all the different levels. However, we're going to split it up, in this case, for 2 levels. And our total number of folders, though, perhaps we don't want more than 250 folders, because perhaps that gets a little unmanageable. Click OK, and what it does is it goes through and splits it down to those different levels, but no more than 250 folders. Okay? And again, you're going to see the ones that you have no access to. In this particular case, these are different than a Windows 7 machine, and there's certain folders on Windows 7 machines you just don't have access to. Okay? I remove those, and I would go along with my file search. So once again, email paths, auto split, and split have all been enhanced to make it a little bit easier to search large file shares. Okay, so if we look at our search criteria, in this case we're going to use keywords. We can basically put any keywords in here for right now. We didn't really do much with keywords for this particular release, But one of the things we did add that I want to show you is on the result options, you see it now says cache results. And what this basically means is that we're now caching file results. So if you're searching files up in your network shares and you want to be able to cache them locally, you can cache them as well as we've always been able to cache the message results. But this allows us to cache the file results. One more note about Office 365, no matter what this setting is, Office 365 results will always be cached. And that's because Office 365 is actually a very, very slow search. To go up and access the Office 365 stores via the internet really depends on factors outside the control of the company. Because of that, what we like to do is cache that locally so everything else will be a lot quicker. So once again, the cache changes that we've made, number one, if you select this option, files will now be cached. Number two, Office 365 types of data source will cache all their results. Okay. Now, if you don't use cache, then there's no need to worry about that particular item. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this search because I'm actually not going to run it. We have run a very similar search before. So what I'm going to do is go back and show you some searches that I've run previously so I can show you the new settings that we have. Actually, I take that back. I am going to run a search. I'm going to come in and run this search because I do want to show you one of the more popular requests that we've had. I'm going to go ahead and schedule the search, and I'm going to go ahead and start this search. Let's just say I go ahead and start this search, and I realize, oh, you know what? I have to stop this search for whatever reason. I now have the pause search feature. Now, pause search allows me a choice. How do I want to handle the tasks that are currently running? Because I have 6 tasks running right now. I can let the currently running ones complete, then anything after that would be stopped, or I can stop the tasks right now. Now, when I stop the tasks, they will restart from the beginning. Okay, so if I stop these tasks that are in progress, they're going to start from the beginning. So I've finished 2 of my tasks, but the other ones, they're canceled for pause. So I come in here and I go ahead and restart my pause, and now it's resuming. And now if I look at my searches in progress, somewhere, where are they? You'll see that these are actually starting again. Okay, so there we go. That's how the pause is working. So if you have any questions about pause, I'm happy to walk you through it. That feature is going to be, I think, very popular. So let's take a look now at some of the other features we have in the tool, aside from pause. And most of the new features are actually in the results set. So I'm going to go ahead and open this set of results. It's a rather large set of results, but let's just go in here and take a look at our all results list. Okay, you'll notice that the all results list now has a preview pane. Now this preview pane can be disabled. If you don't want to see it, you don't have to. But when you select a message, you'll see that the preview pane, screen here, you can now see the preview pane. In addition to that, images are now being shown in the preview pane. You can still double click on this item and open it up in the text viewer. Okay, so if you prefer this view, you can have it. But again, the preview pane is pretty helpful for what you're seeing here. Okay, and again, there are ways to turn it off both in this screen and also in the settings. All right, this will make it a lot easier to review. Now, there's some other things I want to show you on the results summary. Under Organize in the main node, you have a new way of managing custodians. So we realized we kind of were limiting in the 3.7 version of the Managing Custodians. Now we allow you to add custodians, but also add aliases to the different custodians. We don't really care if it's an email address, an actual alias, a different way of having their name. The reason we put all these different custodians in here is we now have an automatic assigning feature. Okay? If you select Auto Assign Custodians, it goes through and automatically assigns the custodians by taking these properties and matching them against the address properties and also the file properties that are collected during the search. If these properties match, they are then assigned to the result item that they matched. Okay? So when that happens, you click on By Custodian, and now you have each of your custodians assigned different sets of data. And what you can do here is Actions, Export, and copy these to PST. And what you're doing is you're copying these all by custodian. Okay, it's actually going to create a data store per custodian, so you can export it. But you can also just go in and look at the individual custodians and everything that has to do with any of these particular people that are in your data set. Okay, so the auto-assign will save you a lot of room if you're doing custodian-based work. Once again, it takes the properties from the aliases that you enter, compares them against email addresses, and also that would be to, send, etc., and also against the file properties. Excuse me. Okay, so that is the automatic assigning. Let's now take a look at some of the views that we've put in the tool. The first one here is the by extension view. This is taking any attachment or file and showing you these attachments and files by extension. Okay? You can then double click on any particular extension and take a look at all the files that have that extension, files and attachments. Okay? Just so you know, there is one called message here. This is just showing you all the message results, because obviously messages, what it means here is the source message. It doesn't mean the an embedded attachment, because embedded attachments have their own section, which I'm looking for right now, but I can't seem to have any here. In any case, if you do have a set with embedded attachments, it's its own section. Okay? Now, some of these, obviously, we don't know what they are, but we list them here so you can show what they are indeed. This description is actually taken from your registry, so if it's not described in the registry, we don't have a description for it. Okay? Another view that we have is one that is called the container view, and it's found under by result type. Okay? Now, the container view, before I actually show you this view, let me first explain why we have this view. When you search compressed files in Discovery Attender, compressed files are zip files, TARs, RARs, but most of the time you're going to encounter zip files. So when you have a zip file, so let's just say you have 5 Word documents, 5 Excel spreadsheets, and you zip them up into one set of documents saying budget numbers, .zip. When you search that container file, Discovery Attender finds a hit in, say, 3 of the files. So 3 of the 10 files it finds a hit, it returns 1 result. Okay? So if you look at your all results screen and you look at your WinZip files here, you'll see that it only returns it 1 time. Okay? If you copy this out, the entire container with all 10 items is copied. Okay? And that makes a lot of sense because it maintains the context of the item. However, with what more people are doing is using compressed files as folders instead of files. And what our customers have been requesting is instead of exporting the entire container, what they'd rather do is export individual items in that container file. So what we've done is we've created a list of all the container items in all the results hits. And you can sort by the hit, if it had a hit or not. So if it had a hit, you can sort by that. Select the items that are true, and then you can copy them out to file. Okay? So what this does is it copies the individual item, not the entire container. And then when you go back and look at your all results list, you actually see the status here, copy container to file, which actually means individual item in here was copied to file. Okay? So the status has changed, but the color does not. That means some of the internal items have been copied. Okay? So this gives you the functionality to take the individual container items, export them without having the entire container. Okay? There's other implications to that as well, things like privilege, etc. Which is the other reason you might want to do it this way rather than copy out the entire container. In any case, that is what it's doing when you're copying out container files. So I showed you the expression breakdown. Now let me show you the new filters that we have for the tool. If we click on Advanced Filters, one of the things that we're able to do is we've added a new field called Properties. And just so you know, if you index your ones, it no longer says keywords, it says index. So if the data set is indexed, that's what you're going to use. But when you're searching properties, it's a very simple search. What you can do is select which property you want to search. And let's just say I want to find, if it's in any of these properties, the word Sherpa. Okay? Sherpa, asterisk Sherpa. It's going to search all these properties in my database. Click Finish. And it goes out, queries the database, and then brings back a listing of results for anything that matches Sherpa. And you can see these things have, all of them have Sherpa in it somewhere. Okay? Now keep in mind the records that you look at the filters, the snippet, the created, the modified, everything else is the dates of the file. Okay, it's not related to the filter. The filter is just matched with these items. Okay, and then you can come in here as you would normally, and you can select the items, etc., and take a look at, you can mark items, you can organize items as you normally would with the rest of your search. Okay, mark them, and then filter them with all the different locations. Okay, so those are the basic features that we've now put in 3.8 of Discovery Attender. All right. Now, I've gone through these with pretty much detail. However, if you do want more detail on the features here, we certainly can answer questions for you at the end of this webinar, and also we'll have this webinar up on the website. But now let me just go back to my, my PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to talk a little bit about Report Attender. Okay, just want to show you this tool. Report Attender was designed, it's actually not part of Discovery Attender itself. It was designed to complement Discovery Attender. And we actually got the idea for Report Attender from a customer who, in this case, he was troubled by the lack of tools to tell him the one thing he wanted was, without running a full search, without doing everything, he wanted not only to know what was in his data set, but he wanted to have a visual clue that he could give to other people. Here, this is what's in the data set, and just have it broken down by different categories. But more to the point, he wanted these categories customizable. He did, for one tool, he might be working with, certain types of people who consider documents one thing, and other people might consider system files something else. He wanted the flexibility to be able to do that. So, in addition to this guy in litigation support, we also had some system administrators who were trying to convince their stakeholders of the purpose. Why do we want a retention policy? Who's actually causing the problems here? And they wanted a tool very, very similar to what the other guy was requesting. What's in the data set? Who are my biggest culprits? So what we did was we did some research, and we came together with this Report Attender tool. So it's a very simple, straightforward tool that creates an inventory of the properties of the data it's scanning. It groups them together, and it puts them into nice categories, groups, and charts. So like all our tools, we made it easy to use and easy to install. The only prerequisite, just so you know, for this particular tool is it needs a .NET framework, and it also needs Microsoft Outlook if you're scanning PSTs or Microsoft Exchange. So Report Attender does scan file shares, Exchange mailboxes, online archives from Exchange 2010, also PST files. The types of information we gather is data on the file types, sizes, duplicates, etc. Now we do use a wizard interface, and it has the choices not just for the different data stores you're going to do, but also the different views that you want to do. Okay. Now the key component of Report Attender isn't the wizard, however, it is the main console. In Report Attender, it has a bunch of drill-down views that you can take a look at and go into different levels of your data, and you also see it has wonderful charts and views. This is a standalone application. It's designed to be very quick and very efficient using multiple threading and specifically delegated processing that helps it make its calculations. So, the end result here is that your data is going to be scanned quickly and accurately. So, before we see this product in action, who is going to use this product? First of all, our IT administrators, they're going to go, they use it, our customer base actually right now is about 50-50 between IT administrators and litigation support. The IT administrators are using it to see what's up on their data stores, what kind of mailboxes on my server, what kind of files are clogging up, how much, for example, they're going to look at things like, well, how many media files are clogging up the network? How old are these files clogging up these networks? Do we need a retention policy? How can I prove that kind of thing? On the other hand, litigation support people use it in the early stages of their litigation process. They can use this before meet and confer, for example. They can come in here and say, well, what am I looking at? How much is this going to cost me? Do we even want to go through all this data? How much is out of range? Because a lot of times litigation support people are either searching their own data or they're actually getting it in from their customers. So Report Attender is designed for both of these people to help in both those situations. Now, just so you know the difference between Report Attender and our other products, Report Attender is designed specifically to do reporting. It's a lot prettier, dare I say, than some of our other products in terms of the reporting it has, and also the types of exports it has. Okay, so Discovery Attender obviously just for searching. Mail Attender, one of our other products, does content management like policy enforcement, retention policy, that sort of thing. So with that said, let's just take a quick look at Report Attender. Hello. Okay, and we will go ahead and start that up. And this won't take but a few minutes, and then we'll get to your questions. So with Report Attender, we have a very simple interface. You're going to go ahead, and if you have projects that you've already scanned, You can open the main console a bit shortly and take a look at projects that are already here. Okay? And what you see here is very straightforward. The root of the project is showing you basic statistics for that project, and it tells you, how many items you have, how many types of files, what was your largest items, most popular domain, etc. So the really cool thing about this is you can take a look at these items by type. So this is file type, for example, and you can take a look at just your files, just your email, or you can look at everything together. Okay? And more to the point, this all view also shows all your uncompressed items. If you chose to uncompress your items, you're seeing them all in this view. Okay? So that zip I was talking about earlier with the 10 documents and the 5 documents and 5 Excel files will fall into my document files. And if I want to take a closer look at those, I can take a look at these here. I can then also create a results inventory by looking at the raw data, or I can just take this graph and export it to PDF. Okay? I can save it, and this PDF file I could send to whoever I wanted to have this information. Okay? Any of the views in Report a Tender can be exported to PDF or CSV. So if you prefer to make your own charts, you're welcome to do so by exporting it to CSV. So let's just take a look at some of the other views that you can have. The by store views are actually pretty popular. This is telling you what is in each store and as a total percentage of your data set. You're also seeing stores by type. So right here, you're seeing each store broken down by the different categories. And these categories are fully customizable. You can go into the preferences and say, well, you know what? I consider, Pages document, I actually want that to be in my Apple set. Mac data, something different. So anything else, you can say what these different sets are. And you have a template of them, so you can use the different templates to organize your data. Okay. You also have the data broken down by date and broken down by volumes of email as well. If you're interested in deduplication, you can see quickly how much of your data set are duplicates. Okay? If you're interested in addresses, once again, you can see your data set and you can see the breakdown of addresses. Now, some people say, well, you have this data in Discovery Tender, and it's true, we do. But to get this data in Discovery Tender, you have to run a search first. Whereas this, you run a scan, yes, but that scan is so much quicker than what you're having in Discovery Tender because you don't have the overhead for it. Okay. So when you set up one of these searches, it's really quite straightforward. What you do is you create a new project, and you just pop it in here, and you just select your items. Very simple, similar to Discovery Tender. Select where you're searching. Come in, again, select the different items. You're all familiar with this from Discovery Tender. Again, it's a different back end to Discovery Tender. It has a completely customizable, or excuse me, a completely different set of databases. So these actually can get as big as you can imagine. We have a database per source that you're scanning, and each one of those can, once again, don't have size limitations on them, which is one of the failures, if you will, of doing larger scans in other products. So we select our data stores. And then view the details. You can select all the details based on the different views you want to see, or you can just select a few of them. So we go here and we finish what we're doing. It comes into the main console again, and now you're going to see the progress of your search here. You can also take a look at your status log. This is a little more detailed of what it's doing, showing you how it goes through. And you can see it plows through these things pretty quickly. Goes through, goes in, scans them pretty quickly to get the data that you want. And once this is finished, the charts are created, the calculations are done, and you have the data set really quickly available to you. So once again, very simple, very straightforward tool for scanning data and letting you know what's in it. Okay, there we have all our views again. So that is Report a Tender, but let us go back to take a look at our final notes. So we talked today about Discovery Tender 3.8 and all the new features that were there. I do want to make sure you're aware of several things. First of all, if you have active maintenance, you are entitled to training sessions. And a great use of those training sessions is an introduction to 3.8, specifically for you and your company. It is live. It is web-based. You're going to be able to talk to me or whoever happens to be doing the training, and you're going to be able to walk through what the best features for you are in your situation. Since you have maintenance, please do take advantage of your training sessions if you have not already. The other thing is there's plenty of resources available, not just for 3A, but for other things. This webinar will be up on YouTube, as I mentioned before. We also have a What's New document. That What's New document will be up there when the product is released. Speaking of release, you will receive notification if you are listed in our system as a technical resource. Chances are if you got notification of this webinar, you will receive notification of the release of the product. One note I do want to make, we have a new hotfix policy. We used to only give hotfixes to people who are seeing, called into support and solve various issues. But what we're doing now is when we issue a hotfix, we will send out a notification of that hotfix to anyone who is listed for, again, the technical contact in Discovery Tender. So if you are not the technical contact for Discovery Tender, please get your name put on there so you are aware of any hotfix release. Now, last but not least, feedback is welcome. Feedback is always welcome for any of our products, but specifically Discovery and Reported Tender. If you'd like to see features in it, etc., do let us know. But aside from that, speaking of feedback, why don't we go ahead into our Q&A session, and why don't we start talking a little bit about questions that you have. And I'm going to take it over to Kristen, see if she has any questions for me. She's actually doing the question monitoring. Kristen?
Yes, thank you, Marta. Like she said, my name is Kristen Priest, and I'm the marketing coordinator here at Sherpa Software, and I'll be moderating our Q&A session today. If you have any questions during this time, please keep submitting them to the questions panel, and we will get to them as soon as we can. We're going to start off with our first question from Farley. Are there any plans to integrate the use of rainbow tables for passwords? Marta?
Currently, we don't have that. However, that is one area that so in other words, that will not be in 3.8. However, it is an area that we are expanding because we find that a lot of people do need that functionality for, obviously regular office documents and things like that. So it is something we're looking into. Hopefully the next version that we will have that. However, it is not currently in 3.8. So to answer your question, yes, we're looking into it, but not currently.
Okay, great. We have a follow-up question from Harley about that. What about password dictionaries?
Well, what we're going to do is this. So you essentially have a password dictionary with a PDF option. So for PDF files, you can put as many words as you like in there. Granted, we're not going out to an actual dictionary to do it, but you can cut and paste as many words in there as you like. However, it's the Office documents that when we actually do initialize the dictionary, we're going to have that not just for PDFs, but also for Office documents that would be able to go into the Office documents and have those be password parsed as well. So the answer to the question is the same as before. We're definitely looking into it, something we're very interested in. A lot of people do have that request, so we are keeping our eye on it. And hopefully we'll have it in the next version, but I'd like to get 3A out first before I can plan what's going to be the next version. So we're looking into it.
Okay, thanks. Next question is from Kevin. Is there a status bar that shows the progress of a search as it's running?
Yes, actually. That is probably better. I'm just trying to see. Do I have this here? When you're looking at a search in general, so let's look at our search. Well, actually, let's go back a second. I think that really depends on what you're looking for. When you're running a search, so let's just go ahead and run, let's say, this search right here. You can see, I'm going to go ahead and run the search. Okay, and what you're seeing right here, this is our searches in progress screen. So the bottom of the screen is telling you how many you have pending, how many are running. Now, there's no really good way for us to tell you, aside from by number of tasks, how the entire search is having as a status bar, but you can kind of extrapolate it by the number of tasks that you have pending. So to answer your question, we don't actually have a status bar, but using the searches in progress screen, that should help you let you know how far you've gotten along in your search.
All right. Thanks, Marta. Next question is from Jim. Can you run all the reports at one time and output to a single PDF?
From Reported Tender, we can, that's a good question. Right now, I don't know that we put that in there. You can definitely do all the status reports in Reported Tender at once, but I'm not sure you can do all the sub-views at once. I will definitely put that on the list for 1.1 because that's obviously a very helpful feature for Reported Tender. Now, if you mean for Discovery Tender, the answer for that I can tell you is no. We actually can't do all the reports in Discovery Tender at once yet. That is something that we do have again on our list.
Okay. We have a comment from Dave who says, this is awesome. Thank you very much for your comment, Dave. We think you're awesome too. Our next question is from Chris. Can you schedule report attender scans to run automatically and to automatically export reports when those scans are run?
No, but that is an excellent suggestion, and I am going to put it in the roadmap as soon as I get off this call.
Perfect. Our next question comes from Charles. I like to submit my results to attorneys who have to copy the PST results to their PCs and then open the PSTs in Outlook in order to review the results. Does Sherpa software provide a simple viewer program that even attorneys can use?
Well, there's several answers I have to that question, some of which can't be on this phone. So let me go back and answer the actual question. Currently, we do not have a viewer. We do have attorneys that use Discovery Tender. Outlook is for a number of reasons, not a good viewer to use, mostly because you're changing your data. Most of the times in larger law firms, for example, they tend to have review products and viewers in place, but it sounds like in your organization you might be a bit smaller and not have that functionality. There are tools out there, and I can give you some names offline of things that they might want to take a look at for those kinds of things, but right now we do not have a product that does that. Again, there are some attorneys who will use Discovery Tender, or they'll give them access to Discovery Tender so they can use our viewer, but right now we don't have an independent product that you can open a PST with. Having said that, you can actually use a text viewer for that, but again, we don't sell it independently of Discovery Tender.
All right. This next question is from Parker. Is there a way to schedule searches in Discovery Tender?
Yes, you can schedule searches, but the thing when you're scheduling searches in Discovery Tender is you do have to have Discovery Tender on. So come to your schedule, the last page of your wizard, save and start at the following date and time. Okay? Now, if you wanted to actually do this repetitively, in other words, have the same search run once a month, that sort of thing, we don't have that in the tool yet, but that is something that we are working on. When we re-architect the product, we'll actually have that as a component. It's kind of difficult to put that repetitive schedule, for in other words, every Monday at 10 o'clock, that sort of thing. It's difficult to put it inside the current architecture. But once again, when we do re-architect the product, which will probably be in the next version or two, we will include that functionality. So once again, if you only need to do it one particular time, save and start. It's the repetitive one that is something that's going to be in a future version.
Okay. Our next question is from Lindsay. Does Report Attender have plans to have a way to report on, quote, top items, such as top 20 keywords or such?
It does, absolutely. We're going to have the thing I should tell you about Report Attender is that we have a roadmap for that that's a mile long. There's so many interesting statistics that we collect, and we just didn't have time, to be quite honest, to put them all in the first version. So there's lots of things that we're going to have in the next version. The one thing about keywords and Report Attender is we currently don't scan for keywords. We actually don't even open the items. We're getting all the top level, if you will, metadata from it. So we can't really get a top keyword list out of it. As it's currently architected. However, you're not the only person to have asked for that, so it is something that we're looking into for a future version of the tool.
All righty. Well, that, I think, sums up our Q&A questions. If anyone wants to get on a last-minute question here, please feel free. Otherwise, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Marta. If you have any questions, you can please follow up with Marta or follow up with us at information@sherpasoftware.com. Just drop us a line and we'd be happy to get in touch with you. Other than that, thank you everyone for joining us and hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.